Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be doing tips and tricks for doing photos of your interior spaces yourself, uh, and even with a cell phone. So I'm Joseph Tiano. I'm an interiors photographer in Metro Detroit. Um, my clients are interior designers, architects, custom home builders, millwork companies, and I specialize in shooting interiors pretty specifically. I played with a lot of other stuff over the years, but there's a ton of variables that are involved in this, and it allows me to get pretty obsessive, which I have an obsessive personality, and I like to do that. There's a lot of problems with interiors, so this is going to help you today. I am new to the resource center. I still very much feel like new kid on the block in reference to an interiors photographer, even in Metro Detroit. So professionally, I've been doing photos for about 7 years, specializing in the interior spaces for about 5 years. And then over the past 2 years, probably, I've been removing the clients that I don't want to work with and focusing specifically to get me to here today. So I'm super excited to be in the Michigan Design Center, more involved with interior designers, our building community, our architectural community. So I'm pretty geeked about all of it. Let's talk about photo stuff. So if you're finish a space and you're doing photos, let's say, and by the way, the reason I'm going over this is because photography can be pretty expensive. Sometimes it makes sense to hire a professional photographer. Those times are for award submissions, for client-facing materials that are going to be website or things that the image of your company depends on it. Anything for publication or editorial if you're submitting to Our Detroit or Detroit Design, stuff like that for purposes of editorial use, you need a professional photographer. If you have a space that you finished up and you just need to have a handful of photos that might live on your cell phone because you want to show another client because there was a material or you wanted to show them the room, that's where we're really talking about today more than anything else. And of course, use it for social media. I think that's pretty fast and loose. Do what you want there kind of deal. I don't think everything needs to be perfect and professional photos. That's my personal opinion. So people love behind the scenes stuff, but we're going to elevate those photos because there's a lot of nuances within an interior space. So some common issues that you might have experienced if you're photographing with your phone in a space is going to be haziness, sun glares, colors look off, really yellow or very blue. And the space just isn't as showing as nice as it is in person. By the way, all the photos on the site are not taken with a cell phone, so sorry for the false advertisement. Those are my photos. Okay, so tip 1 of 5, we're gonna go over 5 tips. And this is a huge one and it's a very silly one, but it's so real, which is clean your camera lens like every single time you take a picture. I was on vacation with my wife. This was about 8 years ago, and we were on a hike, and it was a 3-day hike. And we got to this place that we wanted to be. It was in Peru, and I had smudges on my phone, like real dumb. And so the whole entire day of those photos, like you don't notice it when you're there. You're taking it. It's really sunny outside. They're ruined. We can't use them for anything. And we do little photo books for ourselves and our families. And that little day just kind of got omitted and didn't say anything about it. But it's sad because I don't expect to go to Peru again. I don't know, maybe I will. But whether you're doing stuff with your family, for your personal use, for interior design stuff, wipe the lens off for sure. The best way to do that is use the microfiber with eyeglass cleaner. But real deal, we don't have that with us all the time, right? So most of the time I'm using the bottom of my shirt. That's the real stuff. If I have my camera gear with me, I have the appropriate stuff to do that. But when I'm out on a vacation, I'm not exactly carrying a little travel microfiber kit so I can take nice photos. So, and another thing is that like a lot of the newer cameras, like Olivia's here, is got three lenses on the front standard lens, wide angle, and zoom is usually what those are doing. So oftentimes the wide angle I noticed is extremely temperamental. So even the very smallest thing in the corner, if you ever notice, you go from like a 1 to a 0.5 on your phone and it's like, what the hell just happened? It's usually there's something there that you're not seeing. Wipe it better. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Tip two, when you're shooting inside of a property, turn the lights off. Yes, off. And by the way, I do this on almost all my shoots. You can attest to this. A couple other people here that have worked with me, and I feel like homeowners are, and at first sometimes clients, they're it seems wild and counterintuitive to the process. Usually we think we want to see stuff. Turn all the lights on. We can't see anything. The problem is that introduces so many odd colors with overhead lights that might be different Kelvin scale. This is really well done because this is all the right, tone, like whatever, it doesn't matter. Either way, inside of people's homes, usually they're all over the joint. Or even if they do match, it is casting some sort of yellow hue generally, or green sometimes, onto fabrics, into materials that just don't give you true color. So turn the lights off. And what we're dealing with now is natural light only. So what we're really looking for is daytime natural light photos only. If it's past dusk, like later in the evening, it starts to get to blue hour. It's not cool if everything's blue. If it's really early in the morning, that's fine. Just wait for the sun to come up. It's gonna feel dark. Trust me, it works. Okay, so another thing about this is with natural daylight, it kind of flows through rooms effortlessly. If you imagine like where we're at right now, well, you don't have to imagine, we're here. So all these lights that are coming from like above is, if we're doing it for a photo to look pretty for a couch or a sitting area, and everything was coming directly down like that, it feels very sterile. If we turned these lights off, there's obviously no windows in here, but let's just pretend for S's and G's that there is a window on that side. Natural light finds its way to sort of organically flow through a room, and it feels like peaceful and calming, and there's something that's very serene about it. Even if you have a very small light source in a smaller room, it finds its way to very softly maneuver around, create beautiful shadows, and again, the color tones, it's on point. So let's say if you're in a powder room and you're wanting to shoot something, this is like for real the biggest problem area when you're doing it with a cell phone. You can still do it if it's the daytime. There's light coming from someplace. It's gonna find its way. If you close, if you turn all the lights off, somewhere there's a light that's going to shine into that corner. And generally those powder rooms are kind of fun because you'll end up with like a little bit more of a dramatic light in there because of that. The only way this is really possible is because with new cell phones, you can do long shutter speeds now. So I won't go into all that stuff, but if you drag up, there's a little light and dark plus and minus button on your phone. If you're looking inside of a powder room, let's say, you want to drag it over so that way it keeps the shutter speed open as long as possible. It's going to be blurry. So what you have to do is position yourself up against the door frame, or use a little table to kind of like set the phone down. And then you don't have to worry about like shaking and moving while you're trying to get a photo that has like a 2-second shutter speed on your phone. But most of our phones are doing this now, since like many models ago. Okay. Perspectives and angles is tip number 3. These are all big ones, honestly. This is like for like professional interiors photographers, this is really rule number 1. But here we're going rule number 3. So keep your verticals vertical. And what I mean by that is we don't want to be looking down at objects. And oftentimes it's our natural reaction. If I'm like photographing this space and I'm looking at all of you, my first inkling is to like kind of come up here and like take the picture. Of course, for this purpose, yeah, it's cool. But if it's for like a design, like you want to like elevate things up a little bit, keep the verticals vertical. Scan through any Architectural Digest magazine or AD, whatever you want to call it. there's never going to be a shot that's not looking directly ahead. There are exceptions for when you do the straight 90-degree downs or 45-degree angles, but that's advanced stuff that we don't really have to mess with. If you are, no, I'm going to change this right now. So let's say you're doing a couch in a space and you want to show the fabric of the material. Oftentimes I'll do that with my actual camera, but you can do it, keep a 45-degree at it, but that's advanced and it wasn't on my presentation. I'm just throwing it in there. So for the most part though, keep the perspective straight because it is disorienting if it's looking down or if it's looking up at something. And like I said, next time you flip through the magazine, just take note of it. Even this like picture that I put on the background here, everything's straight. And if it's not straight, I use perspective tools to make it straight. But we're not going to go into that. Okay, so how you can do this is placing the camera between your waist and your chest. And the reason I'm saying that is because oftentimes we will be doing this, right? If you're holding the camera up here, there's something not right about this picture. Like you're like, yo, don't do this. You're like, oh no, I did that just now. It's just, it's too much. It's if you're holding it at your like chest level right around here, down to your waist, which I know seems really low and odd, but I'm telling you the truth. If you go a little bit lower in, let's say, sitting room areas, for example, let's just say it's like a family room offshoot that has like a table and a couple chairs and you're drinking wine there, right? You don't want to really be up here because we're seeing way too much of the top. We're not really seeing the design elements that you guys put into this lower area. If you're at your waist here, and oftentimes we all do it, right? Where you're like down here, this feels right for a sitting area, right? And then it keeps it a little bit more intimate to that photo. We can focus on the verticals. If you're shooting, let's say, a kitchen with a very large island in the middle with like the chairs and the, like that quintessential single point shot of the kitchens, right? So if you were to go that low, you're not going to see over the countertops then. You're not going to be able to see the surface of the stone or any of the textures that are happening with that. So if you're down here, it's just not right. It's going to look too low unless the purpose of this is to show the cabinetry on the bottom, which will show anyways. If you bring it up a little bit higher, just enough so you can start to see over the surfaces in the kitchen, that's the right element. So kitchen, things that you need to look over things, you're often a little higher. Things that are a little bit more intimate, kids' bedrooms down here, right? So that's sort of rule of thumb on that stuff. Okay, tip 4, declutter and style. So this was something that I remember hearing about in video production stuff. I do not do video. I've helped on production sets for video stuff, but I remember hearing a long time ago, if it's in frame, it's part of the story. And it stuck with me for still to this day. If you're looking in your camera, even if it's just the cell phone stuff here, if you see something in frame and you don't want it to be, don't be shy to move stuff. And get it out of there. It's not. I think we're in a lot of people's homes and we're touching a lot of stuff anyways. And for some reason, I noticed this. You can do all this work that you do in these homes, meet with these clients for so many months, sometimes years, and then that's your work. That's like everything that you put into this. And then something about when you pull a phone out to take a picture, I see it, you get nervous, like somehow you've crossed a line. This is too personal or something. Some people don't, but a lot of people do. So it's not an afterthought. It doesn't have to be an afterthought. Put some, kind of thought into that. If it's in frame, it's part of the story. A quick cleanup goes a long way. So get the boxes of LaCroix out of the way or whatever is in the shot, right? And also styling for the camera is often very different than styling for the room. So take chairs, for example. Actually, this is a good example. This picture back here. That picture looks fairly balanced off to the left here, like as far as the instruments, the chairs. But what's actually happening in that room is that far left chair is pulled out dramatically farther than that one. You can see it now that you're looking at it, and I point it out. It's like 3 feet away. That one's like jammed into the corner. Nothing is like functional. I don't know instruments. What is this? A violin in the front? Is that right? Okay, cool. So that violin is pulled very far away. If you were to walk in the room from the other side, everything's all spread apart and it looks whack. It doesn't look right. But the camera sees something different and it looks very peaceful and looks nice. The table looks like it's centered. It is absolutely not centered. So keep that in mind when you're doing it, that you might look at it, and if it looks unbalanced to the camera, just adjust it. So, and it's going to show better when you show your clients. What else do we have here? Same with surface top items, books or bottle of wine or things that we kind of like position around sometimes to style and dress up a space. Bringing those things forward often looks a little bit better. The farther things away are, the smaller they are, they get lost. It's either there or it's not, sort of thing. Bring it closer generally. Okay. Tip 5, which is the last tip. Less is more. So this is about sort of kind of what I said before, maybe being a little bit shy about taking the photos or whatever it may be. Just be purposeful with what you're doing. I think sometimes you'll see like you're talking to the client, you're just snapping a few shots as you kind of walk by. Make it an effort to say, I'm focused on shooting this kids' room that I did, and taking the effort to think, okay, what 2 or 3 photos can I make that are really going to be good for this to live in my phone or on social media or whatever it may be. I don't need to see every corner, every tight shot or anything like that. Just like maybe a couple wide scope shots that kind of show a little bit of everything, and then maybe a detail shot, and then call it good. If you're showing a client that, imagine when you're doing this, you're not really going to probably show them 20 photos. You're going to pick the favorite 2 that you took. So if you put more thought into it ahead of time and you're selective with it, it generally is going to come out a little bit nicer. And I lied, there's a bonus tip. So I think editing your photos can go a long way. I feel like it's overwhelming for a lot of people, probably. But it's extremely accessible on our cell phones now. Most of the time when I'm taking shots of, let's say if I'm on vacation with my family, I don't have to go into another app any longer. You can just click in your gallery and click edit, and you can do these like local adjustments on your phone on the quick, and it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. I would say if it's not built into your app, like on your phone, which 90% of us it probably is, but if it's not, there's an app called Snapseed that is free, and I still use it. I downloaded it, like, no joke, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago or something, and it's free. They're never charged, and I just do local small adjustments on all this stuff. It's very easy. If you're overwhelmed by that, just keep it to 2 things. Brighten the pictures up a little bit and crop them if you forgot to remove the boxes of LaCroix. And then we're good to go. Everything else, the details, the sharpness, the saturation, the vibrancy, the shadows, forget about it. It's not that important. It is important if you're doing it professionally, but if you're just taking pictures that live on your phone to show some clients, brighten them up a little bit so they can see it, so they don't have to grab their reading glasses and do the squint and see all the things. Brighten them up a little bit and crop it if it looks like you missed something. That's the end.